Hi guys, sorry I'm about to sneeze. So apparently you should think about sex when you're about to sneeze. Apparently that works. I've read that on Uberfax. With the full moon and penumbral lunar eclipse coming up in a few days, I just thought I would shoot you a very quick video, or try to keep it quick at least, regarding the glossary and some of the words that we use and their meanings when it comes to some of the lunar phases. So I have my little astrology glossary here. So the first thing I thought I would tell you is what a lot of people don't know is when we have new moons and when we have full moons, their position within the zodiac wheel, okay, and where they fall within the houses. So when we have a full moon, it means that wherever the sun is, so whichever house the sun is transiting at that time, so for example, right now we are in Sagittarius season, it means that the moon is 180 degree directly opposite that. So it's opposing, so those two celestial bodies are opposing each other. And so the moon, that's why it's a full moon, the moon receives the full force of the sun's rays. So if the sun is in Sagittarius at the moment, which is 9th house, that means the full moon will occur in Gemini, which is the 3rd house, okay? A new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct each other within that 30 degree angle within that one house, okay? So it doesn't have those directly opposing rays. A penumbral eclipse, so penna is basically, the translation of penna means almost, and umbra is shadow. So with this partial lunar eclipse, that means that because of the tilt of the moon, the 5.1 degree tilt of the moon, when it crosses the Earth's orbit, the shadow, the umbra from the sun, because the moon doesn't have its own illumination, we know that, when it crosses the Earth umbra, okay, so that shadow that is created between the sun and the orbit of the Earth and the moon, it only partially illuminates, okay? So that's why we have what's called a penumbral lunar eclipse, okay? A couple of other words that I have mentioned in my previous videos that I just thought I would give a little bit of clarification on is things like when I talk about planets falling within each of the houses together as a cluster, we call that a stellium or a stellium, however you want to pronounce that. And that is when you have two or more planets that are forming a cluster within one house at the time of your birth, okay? Don't know if you can see that. Also, when we have planets that are in retro, so when the planets appear to be moving backwards, when we have retros at the time of our birth, it's usually representative of issues that we have to face here that we haven't faced in our past lives. So it's sort of a past life regressive situation. Depending on the energy and the characteristics of that planet, we find that those characteristics we have repressed within ourselves. So as far as our self-expression goes, so we have deeper internal lessons that we need to learn in this life to be able to achieve our karmic and our dharmic destiny, okay? So we often find that there's adversity around those particular aspects of our life. So for example, I had 3 planets in retro, or RX. So if you ever see capital R, so uppercase R and small x, that is the glossary. That's the key for retrograde. So I had 3 planets, and I have my natal chart here. So I had Mercury, which was in retro at the time. So I have issues, and I face adverse issues when it comes to communication and speaking my truth. So my throat chakra. Also Uranus was in the 8th house of Scorpio at the time of my birth. Okay, so when it comes to Uranus is the planet of science, and Scorpio is the house that rules sex, the underworld, other people's money, taxes, inheritances, and death. So death always means reformation, or death always means transformation, so it's always rebirth. So I do tend to have quite a scientific view when it comes to death, the thought of death. I don't get overly emotional about it. I do regarding the loss, but I also understand that death doesn't actually really exist, because we are just energy. We're basically molecules. We're just a bunch of electrons, protons, and neutrons, and so energy never dies. So we just move, from, as John Lennon said, it's just getting out of one car and getting into another. And I also had Neptune in my 9th house, which is Sagittarius. So Neptune was also in retrograde, okay? Neptune rules the 12th house of Pisces, so it's all about spirituality, our subconscious. And that was in my 9th house of Sagittarius, which is the house that rules philosophy, higher learning, and religion. Okay, so I have had to do a lot of integration regarding dogmatic doctrines in this particular lifetime, and I certainly I was never a conformist when it comes, and I'm certainly not a conformist when it comes to those dogmatic doctrines. Okay. Now also, with Mercury and Venus, where they fall in our chart, because I just wanted to clarify a couple of things, because of how close they are to the Earth and the Sun, so where they are on the orbital path, Mercury is never more than 28 degrees away from your sun sign. So you'll find that on either side, so on those bookending sides of that house, so for example, my sun is in the 4th house, Mercury is also in my 4th house. However, if he wasn't, just depending on where he was in his transit at that time of my birth, he could either be in the bookending houses, so either the 3rd house or the 5th house. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Venus is never more than 50 degrees away either. So you'll usually find Venus will be 1 to 2 houses either side of the house that your sun falls in. Okay. Also, I have done a couple of videos regarding the prototypical structure of the natal wheel as well, and I did touch on the South Node and the North Node, okay, and we spoke in my previous video about the different hemispheres, the Southern and the Northern Hemisphere, and anything that happens, anything that occurs, so if you have a lot of activity occurring above the horizon, you tend to find that there's more frenetic energy within the aspects of those particular houses, okay, in your life. So your North Node and your South Node are always in RX, they're always retrograde as well. Okay, so the South Node and the North Node speaks to your public reputation, how you present to the world, and anything that happens south of that hemispheric border is our internal world, everything that plays out in our private lives, okay? South Node is, you find where your South Node falls, the aspects of those houses are what you have achieved. You've achieved your dharmic purpose in previous lives, in previous incarnations, wherever that may have been, whatever dimension or realm that may have been. And your North Node is what you have to work to in this life, okay? So when you see NN, or if you're looking at the key chart, it sort of looks like a little horseshoe, okay? North Node is upright horseshoe, South Node is downright horseshoe, so it's inverted, an inverted horseshoe, okay? So your North Node is what you have to work to in this life, all right? In this incarnation. I did speak again about activities that occur Western and Southern Hemisphere, okay? So anything that occurs in the Western Hemisphere speaks to having a destiny and a particular fate in this life. That's the Eastern Hemisphere, and then Western Hemisphere is free will. So you find that you're quite assertive when it comes to those aspects of your life. Very self-motivating, very initiating. So you make your own destiny. All right. I hope that makes sense. I think I've gone through it all. When we talk about the sun and the moon, we do refer to them as planets. However, we know that they're not planets. We know that they are celestial and cosmic bodies. But because of their importance within our star system, when we talk about it, when astrologists and astrologers do talk about them, sometimes we do refer to them as planets, okay? And I think that is it. I hope that I've given you some clarification around the interpretation and some of the words and terminology that we use in astrology when we are interpreting our natal charts. As always, throw me a like, subscribe, share this video if you think there's anybody that would be interested in it. Drop a comment in the section below if there's any subjects or topics that you would like me to talk about. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.